Am I the a-hole for rolling my eyes at my ex's wife when she asked me for compassion? I, 33 female, broke up with the father of my 2 children, 11 male and 9 male, 7 years ago. We weren't married or anything, but our breakup was amicable, and we co-parented on good terms for a couple of years. Then he met his wife, and once I met her, things changed. It was clear she didn't like me, or the fact that my ex and I could get along. When we met, she called me the kid's other mom, implying she was the mom, and she glared daggers in my direction when I told her I wasn't the other mom, but just the mom. She would call them her boys and say she was a boy mom whenever she was speaking to me. She tried to push my ex back and order that all communication about them go through her instead of him, and when I refused, she told me I didn't have the right. Once that fight happened, she started sending me photo updates whenever my ex and she had a day out with the boys, or if they did anything with them for a significant amount of time. She'd text me anywhere from 3 to 5 photos and say she had a great day with her husband and her children. I saved all of that because I didn't like her attitude toward me. When I tried talking to my ex about it, he told me she was trying really hard to be good to the boys, and that I needed to accept it and help her take on an active second mom role because they had trouble getting the boys bonded to her. I told him how she spoke to me wasn't acceptable, and he said it came from insecurity and that it felt like I was a big enough person to know that. While we were talking, she texted me saying I had no right to discuss her children with her husband. I showed my ex, and he told me it was just her being insecure. But this was the breakdown in our co-parenting relationship, because I didn't appreciate the fact that I was supposed to let his wife walk all over me and push me out eventually, because it was clear she wanted that. She'd get into a snit anytime she wasn't given full parental access. This meant that when she wasn't able to add her family and friends to the school pickup list and wasn't able to change with pediatrician they went to, she got upset. My ex never fought me too hard on that stuff, but she sure as heck tried to. She also hated that she couldn't take them out of state to visit her relatives whenever she wanted. She introduced herself as the kids' mom every single time we went to a parent-teacher conference, or when she showed up at a medical appointment for our youngest who has some health issues. We actually returned to court twice over this. My ex and she were told by the judge that she was not the mother of the children and did not have the right to impersonate me when it came to school or medical settings. The judge also warned that the court would not take kindly to any alienation of the children. My ex's wife tried to claim I was engaging in alienation and that the proof was in the kids not calling her mom, even though they were very young when she became their stepmom. The judge asked for proof and stated that wasn't proof. The second time, there was a documented incident of her saying she was the kids' real mom in front of them, and the judge restricted certain things she could do. She can't do drop-offs of the kids, and she can't show up to appointments for school meetings that require both parents. That decision ticked her off immensely. But the good thing is, she contacts me far less now, and that works for me. I try to make something like co-parenting work with my ex and focus on the kids. But apparently, my ex and her have been through some stuff. She found out she can't have biological children, and they were rejected for adoption. The boys have expressed that they don't like her, which I knew a little about, because my ex requested permission for family therapy for them. I consented because we already had the boys in individual therapy, but therapy is not helping to foster a closer relationship. She came to me when they had the boys, and info dumped all of this onto me at the front door of my house. I almost closed the door on her, which she noticed, but she kept talking about her issues and then told me to have some compassion for her and at least hear her out and try to help since we're both the mothers of the boys. I rolled my eyes when she asked me for compassion. I didn't even try to hide it, and I had no sympathy for her. None. I can't say I'm upset that my kids don't like her, seeing as I think it would open up the avenue for her to try harder to push me out, and would possibly open them up to being alienated against me. She got into another snit at the door, and I told her to leave. She was insulting me, but I moved away from the door so I couldn't hear her. She followed up with 10 texts that night, and then my ex told me I owe his wife an apology for rolling my eyes at her. Now, maybe I was wrong to roll my eyes at her like that. Maybe I could have been more mature. So I'll ask, am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. The husband's new wife is a few Fruit Loops short of a full bowl of cereal. She is not playing with a full deck of cards. Her mental elevator stalls at the 4th floor. How is she so rude and nasty toward you, then basically begged you to get your kids to like her, whatever that means? I assume she wanted to be placated, meaning you tell them to be nice and treat her the same way they do you, which is insane in itself. Pretty much exactly what you said. She wanted them to treat her like they treat me, only she probably expected and hoped they'd treat her better. Is this why they don't like her? I can't imagine any kids being comfortable listening to someone talk smack on their mother whom they love and have a good relationship with. Nope, not the a-hole. She spent years trying to erase you as their mother, and now that things aren't going her way, she suddenly wants your compassion? Nah, she made her bed. You don't owe her anything, especially not an apology for an eye roll. She's lucky you didn't laugh in her face. Next story. Am I the a-hole for being stubborn and refusing to move back home with my mom and telling her she chose her stepdaughter over her son and these are the consequences? My dad died when I, 16 male, was 4, and for 3 years it was just me and my mom. Life was pretty good. We were sad Dad wasn't there, and I had some big emotions about not remembering enough about him, but I got therapy and it helped. Then my mom met James when I was 7. James was a single dad to Emma, who was 9 at the time. My mom and James fell in love and they moved in together. Mom helped James with Emma, who had pretty bad mental health problems even back then. Emma wasn't easy to be around. When Mom and James would date, she'd have outbursts, all the way back when we'd meet up at a diner for lunch or go to museums and stuff together. So by the time we all moved in together, I was pretty upset. It only got worse when we lived together. Some days, Emma was fine, calm even, but other days she'd say things about hurting herself and others. Then there were the days she'd try to break a door down or smash up a room. There were a few times I told my mom I didn't like what was happening, and each time, she'd tell me we were a family now and Emma was my sister, and we needed to be there for her. When Emma was 13, she started taking drugs. Then she started drinking. Sometimes she acted less explosive when she was high or drunk, but once that wore off, she was worse. When she was 15, she freaked out one day and even though she didn't drive, she basically totaled her dad's car, broke the front door, and shattered 2 of the front windows. The police and an ambulance came, and she was removed from the house. CPS stepped in, and she was placed somewhere to help with her mental health. She stayed for a year. I was forced to visit twice a month with Mom or with James. If I asked to stay home, the answer was no. She needed to see her family. She was released, but she wasn't sent to our house at first. She was placed with a therapy foster family. She'd come to visit, but even with all the help, she was still difficult to be around, and I hated those visits. Then after 3 or 4 months with a foster family, she moved back into the house with us. In the background of all this, my paternal grandparents were fighting my mom over me. They tried to get custody 3 times but were denied. They didn't feel like she was putting me first and instead put Emma first. I didn't get to see them because my mom would refuse to let us have contact. She said they'd poisoned me against my family. But all the time with Emma and James living with us had done that anyway. I don't like them. I feel like they made my life worse and added nothing good. My mom put having them in her life over my safety and mental health. Emma still lives with them, but 6 months ago, I called CPS after another incident, and they removed me from the house. I can't say much about the incident, and there's an investigation happening into it. Some other stuff is going on, but CPS and the judge agreed that I needed to get out of there. However, the judge ordered that my mom and I have at least one 30-minute phone call a week. Every time my mom calls, she tries to get me to move back in. She says I just need to tell my grandparents, and we don't need to make it official or anything. She tells me she loves me and misses me. I got so tired of her saying the same thing over and over again that I told her she put Emma before me, and I won't ever move back in. When she tried to say the whole thing about Emma and James being our family, I told her they were her family, but they were never mine. I didn't care about them or want them in my life. I said they brought nothing good into my life. They made it worse, and losing dad was already a pretty crappy start to mine. I told her losing her son is the consequence of choosing her husband and his daughter over her son. She called me too stubborn for my own good and asked me where my understanding for others had gone. Then she ranted about Emma being sick and needing family, love, and support. She kept going on like that until the 30 minutes were up, and I just ended the call. But she sent me some texts after that, and they bothered me. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. If you're happy and doing better, don't change a thing. Stay where you're at. Enjoy life. I'm way happier, and I wish I could have lived with my grandparents years ago. Not the a-hole. No child should be put second, abused, and expected to return like no harm, no foul. I hope you work on your work ethics and prepare for the adult world. Good luck to you. Not the a-hole. CPS and the courts don't remove minors from the home for no reason, so whatever happened must have been pretty serious. Add that on top of your mom ignoring your needs and trying to make you live with a psycho. Nope, you're not the a-hole. Your mom and her husband certainly are, though. My advice is to adhere to the 30-minute telephone call because it's mandatory, but block your mom outside of those 30 minutes. You owe her about as much as she felt she's owed you. That is absolutely nothing. See if your grandparents can help you get therapy and focus on building a family of people you choose and who choose you. Let your mom keep telling herself that it was okay to separate you from your grandparents and to force you to put up with more than you should have. Let her silence be her lesson. My grandparents have me in therapy, but the therapist isn't great. The judge chose the therapist for me, and we can't change who I see. So I have to deal with it for at least another 4 months before we're back in court. I'm not supposed to block my mom on my phone even when we've had our call. Next story. Am I the a-hole for divorcing my depressed wife because her depression and depression-induced spending are dragging me down? When my wife, 36 female, and I, 35 male, met, I was in an MBA program, and she was finishing up her certification process to become a nurse anesthesiologist. I was drawn to her drive and optimistic view of the world. We were both young adults, 26 and 27, who saw the world as an endless source of opportunity. We discussed having kids when we were more established in our careers. After graduation, we both went to work. I got a job in consulting, making $200,000 a year with a signing bonus, and have continued to grow in my career. My wife was crushing it at her dream hospital, making $150,000 before overtime. We were so happy traveling and enjoying ourselves. We eventually bought our home and were truly living our dreams, until about 3 years ago. My wife had a mental breakdown at home between shifts at the hospital. She was eventually hospitalized for a few weeks. After she came home, we agreed she would take 6 months off to recover, and I would take care of us. Immediately, she started spending an average of $2,000 to $3,000 every other week on traveling with friends and weekend trips. She stopped helping around the house and was constantly out. I completely supported this for the first 6 months. She said it was part of her healing process, and I understood entirely. Through sickness and health, right? Then, the agreed-upon 6 months passed, and I asked if she was ready to return to work part-time. This caused her to shut down, so I backed off. Then a year passed, and I revisited a conversation. Another breakdown ensued. I asked if she was ready to consider starting our family and being a homemaker instead of working. We were in a great financial position and didn't need the money. She agreed, and for the last year, we have been trying to have a baby. We have even done fertility testing and been given a "you are both healthy, keep trying." Last week, I was driving her car and dropped my phone. I pulled over to grab it from under the driver's seat and, to my surprise, found birth control pills. I was shocked and turned around on my way to work to confront her. She broke down and called me an abuser for trying to force kids on her. She has never told me she didn't want kids, and I would absolutely never push her. She then started blaming me for her breakdown and said it's my fault she can't work. I then brought up how I've handled 95% of the cooking and cleaning for the last 3 years because I was trying to support her and allow her to heal while she traveled, and racked up a $10,000 credit card bill every month for me to pay off. Since then, she has shut down and refuses to talk to me. I've been sleeping in our vacation house because she says it's detrimental to her mental health to share a space with me, her abuser. I can't shake the feeling that I have been lied to and taken advantage of for years now. I want a divorce, but at the same time, if she is genuinely sick, I don't want to abandon her. Am I an a-hole for even considering leaving my sick wife? I can't shake the feeling that I'm selfish for even considering this. Edit to address common questions. 1. Yes, my wife has been in active therapy for the last 3 years, and I have proof of this. 2. She is not having an affair. Our sex is good to very good. Also, many of these trips include her mother, whom I trust unconditionally. 3. Please stop soliciting me in the DMs. I have no intention of cheating on my wife. 4. I have stayed so long because I genuinely love my wife and want to ensure she is cared for. Even now, after getting so much feedback confirming my feelings, I feel incredibly guilty. I feel that I am responsible for her well-being, and I'm terrified of what her life would look like without me. Not the a-hole. Thank her for taking the birth control, because now you don't have to include kids in a divorce. This, taking the birth control, was huge betrayal, but did him huge favors so he's not stuck with her for life and paying tons of child support too with his salary. Not the a-hole. Don't get her pregnant. Divorce and move on. I totally agree with this. Bro, she's running the biggest scam of the century. First, it's I need time to heal. Then it's I can't work. Then it's agreeing to have a baby while secretly taking birth control. She's not struggling. She's strategizing. She doesn't want a partner. She wants a paycheck. Agreed. Guaranteed while she vacations with her friends, she's mocking your gullibility. Last story. Am I the a-hole for unplugging my fiancé's phone, fully charged, to use my own charger when my phone was at 4%? I, 28 male, live with my fiancé, 25 female, and we recently had a disagreement that I'd like some outside opinions on. We have a USB-C charger that stays in the living room. Technically, it's mine, but since we live together, we both use it when needed. A few days ago, her phone was plugged into the charger, but it was already 100%. Meanwhile, my phone was at 4%, and I urgently needed to send an important email or something similar. I don't remember exactly, but it was something time-sensitive. In my rush, I asked her, can I use the charger, while already unplugging her phone to connect mine. She immediately said no. This surprised me, as her phone was already fully charged, and mine was about to die. I had already plugged in my phone by then, so I said, but your battery's full. She got really upset, and we had a brief argument about it. We dropped it at a time, but the issue came up again a few days later. She told me that what I did was rude, and compared it to her watching TV and me changing the channel without asking. I disagreed because if she were actively watching something, I wouldn't just change the channel. This was different. She insisted that it was negotiable etiquette, meaning that it's still rude even if I think it makes sense. According to her, I should have asked, and if she said no, I should have respected that, even though it was my charger and her phone was already at 100%. So, am I the a-hole for unplugging her fully charged phone to charge mine in an urgent situation? Not the a-hole. This is really telling. I'm not saying to run, but lace up the running shoes. I wonder if she's more worried about what OP might see on her phone than the actual charger. Not the a-hole. But does your fiancé like to have the last word in anything and everything no matter what? Are you sure that's something you want to be dealing with for the rest of your life? Usually, yes. Lately, I fear bringing my complaints because of that. Sadly, it wasn't like that for years. 5 together, and I could count on one hand, but lately has become the rule.